Good preparation is an important part of any bigger project or something that you take on, challenge that you take on. Being prepared and properly training for what you want to do is important. When Hans was 12 years old, um, I told him I would spend a week with him doing whatever he wanted to do, and just the two of us would do something together for a week. And so what we decided on, or what he decided on, was to do a bike trip, to ride bicycle for 7 days. So we started planning, and we decided we could ride bike from Dryden, where we lived at the time, to Winnipeg and back. It's about 240, 230 miles, maybe something like that. And so we thought if we checked and we found that somewhere we got information that professional cross-country bike riders ride 120, 140 miles a day. So we thought, well, we won't be able to do that, but if we would ride 70 or 80 miles a day, that would we could do it in 3 days. And if professional people do almost twice that much, we should be able to do 70 or 80 miles a day. So we thought we would ride out on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we'd rest out there on Sunday and then come back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we got our bikes ready and we started training, and there was a circle of roads close to where we lived. It was about 11 miles around the circle. So we got to the place where we could ride that 11 miles in 45 minutes. So our strategy was if we ride 10 miles in 45 minutes and then we rest for 15 minutes, and then we do another 10 miles, 45 minutes, rest another 15 minutes. In 7 or 8 hours, we should be able to ride 70 or 80 miles. So we practiced and we trained, we ran it, we rode our 11 miles, and finally the day came that we were ready to go. We loaded up our saddlebags, we had a little tent and sleeping bags and our clothing, and we headed off. We left early in the morning, as soon as it was getting light, and headed west. Well, things went great. Um, we got to Vermilion Bay, which was about 30 miles in time for breakfast, and we were doing good. However, the flaw in our strategy was that it's one thing to ride a bicycle 11 miles and then put it in the garage and go do something else, and the next day ride 11 miles again. It's another thing to get on a bicycle and ride 10 miles and then take a 15-minute break and then ride 10 miles again and do that 7 or 8 times in the same day. So by the time we got to Vermilion Bay, we had done three of our 10-mile uh, segments. But as I was sitting in the restaurant eating breakfast and I looked out at that bike, one of the last things I wanted to do was go out and get back on that bike. My legs hurt already, and we still had 50 miles to go, or 40 miles to go to Kenora. We were going to sleep at Longbow Lake, at the campground at Longbow Lake on the east side of Kenora. But we were committed. So after breakfast, we got out, we got on the bike, we started heading west. And of course, it got hotter, and we're in the hills between Vermilion Bay and Kenora. And at that time, there were no paved shoulders, so we were riding on the very edge of the road. The traffic was passing us, and wow, we got tireder and tireder. Our legs hurt more and more. And between Stewart Lake and Willard Lake, which is about a 20-kilometer stretch, 12-mile stretch. There were times that in an hour we were only covering like 4 miles, and I knew we were in trouble. But we got past Willard Lake. We had about 12 or 15 miles to go, and I realized we're going to make it. So we got to Longbow Lake that evening, and oh, I was sore all over. We set up our tent. We ate a little food. We went straight to bed. We just lay down and slept. But I told Hans, hey, if we did it one day, we can do it 5 more days. So we got up the next morning, and there was a problem with the wheel on one of our bicycles. So we went to a bike shop and got that fixed in Kenora, and then we headed west out of Kenora. And I was telling Hans, hey, don't worry. This is tough. But um, we get to the Manitoba border. There's just two or three dips after you go past the Manitoba border, and then it's all level and straight from there to Winnipeg. So no more hills. So this is good. We'll get out of the hills. It'll be much easier. Well, we crossed the Manitoba border. We got through those two or three dips, got on the straight prairies heading west toward Winnipeg. The problem was we also discovered why people ride from west to east when they ride across the country because of the prevailing winds. The wind is usually out of the west. Now we were riding, but we were riding into the wind. The wind was out of the west. And so we had to pedal hard to pedal into the wind. And just it was true, we were never going uphill, so we didn't have to pedal uphill, but neither did we get to coast downhill. So either you were pedaling or you weren't going. Oh, it was so hard. We got to where we were staying the second night, and we got into our tent, and I told Hans, I am so tired. I don't even know if I can close my own eyelids. You might have to close my eyelids for me. Well, we went to sleep. We got up the next morning. We rode the rest of the way into Winnipeg. Got to Winnipeg. We stayed at a campground there on the east side of Winnipeg, um, and finally we had made it. Then we were resting there, and I was telling Hans, "Hey, no problem. Like, okay, so we were riding against the wind, but now we're going to turn around and we're going to head east, and then the wind will be at our back, so it'll help us, and we'll be good on the way home." Well, we rested there on Sunday evening. We were sitting at the picnic table at our campground, and Hans said, "Dad, look at that flag. Which way is the wind blowing?" And the wind was straight out of the east. Sure enough, we got up Monday morning, headed back. The wind, we rode into the wind going east. We stayed at Willard Lake on the east side of Kenora at a campground there Monday night. Um, actually, we didn't. We stayed in Manitoba somewhere Monday night, and then Tuesday night we got east of Kenora, got to Willard Lake. We stayed at Willard Lake east of Kenora Tuesday night. Wednesday we rode the rest of the way home. By the time we got home, we were physically in the shape that we should have been before we ever left on the trip. You know, our strategy was flawed because we were only riding 11 miles and then putting the bike away. We should have done a couple of 30 or 40 or 50-mile bike trips just to get ourselves in shape for what we were going to do. So when you're going to do a big project, be prepared. Preparation matters. It does make a difference.